Welcome back to the 15-foot growing dome here at Growing Spaces. I'm Dana and this is Jeremy. It is November 21st and we're going to talk today a little bit about thinning our wonderful garden that's growing so well, and we're going to talk about some techniques. The reasons that you thin, there's a few different reasons. One, you kind of seed quite a bit of seeds if you're direct sowing instead of transplanting, and that's what we did in this outer bed. We direct sowed all of this stuff. So it's growing in really thick because not everything germinates, and that's why you kind of seed more than you think maybe you should. However, after it does, you have to do the unthinkable task of then thinning out some of them, because otherwise they're going to compete for water, nutrients, and light, and they're not going to be as healthy and strong as plants, as well as the fact that if you do have any kind of mold or disease, those things spread a lot more quickly among really densely packed plants. So we're trying to take care of a few different things here, and we're going to start with Jeremy talking about microgreens.
So we already thinned these a little bit last week, but we're going to do a little more. Just so you can see, what we've chosen to do is, on these ones in particular, is a cut and regrow method. So that means we want to cut above where the plant grows out, and we'll cut these out here, and we have that thinned out. But then also what it keeps is it allows the plant to regrow, so we keep getting more and more from our greens, instead of just if I came through here and cut everything down to the ground, then I'm not going to get any more out of it. So it's a way to have a continuous source of fresh greens for yourself throughout the growing season.
So next, I'm going to talk about this arugula. Actually hasn't been thinned yet. We've let it go a little bit long, but I think the leaves are going to be really tasty and spicy. We like kind of spicy arugula. If you harvest them and thin them when they're younger and more tender, they're going to be more mild. So I'm going to do the same thing that Jeremy was just doing with the microgreens. Basically, I want to cut and be able to come back for more growth. So I'm going to cut down low near the growing point, and then I've got my arugula leaf that's going to be really good in a salad. So next I'm going to talk a little bit about thinning root crops. So root crops are a little bit different because you want them to expand underground. They're not as sensitive to root disturbance as some other crops, mostly in the cucurbit family. So we have some peas over here that I'm going to talk about in a minute, and they really don't do well with root disturbance, so we thin them a little bit differently. But root crops, actually, if you're careful, you can just pull out. That's the case with these carrots. So with carrots, I usually select a larger one, and I kind of will pinch around it, and then I'll pull out the others that are close to it on the other sides. Carrots don't have to be really spread out, but sometimes they get really thick, and that can be a little bit of an issue. Carrot tops are actually really good. You can make pesto out of them or just throw them in your salad. Kind of an interesting fact about both Swiss chard and beets is that they actually are planted from a compound seed, and so even if you were to only plant one single seed, you would get more than one Swiss chard plant more often than not. Same with beets, coming out of that one seed. And so no matter what you do, you're not going to escape thinning on those guys. With the beets, you can do just like with the root crops, pinch around the one you want to keep and then pull out the other. I kind of mound up the soil after I do that, and then I always try and water it so that I can then have the soil settle back down around the root. So that's really helpful.
So as Dana already mentioned, peas are more sensitive to root disturbance than a root crop. So what we do, instead of pulling them out to help prevent disturbing the roots, is I go ahead and just go to the bottom of one of these pea plants and just snip it off, and we can add this to our compost bin and call it a day, and we haven't hurt any of the roots here, and we'll get some nice peas later on.